Number two, Patrick Mahomes. It's not that he's just talented. He's the only guy in the last 20 years. He's going to surpass Brady here. Like we're serious here. Like Brady picked up the greatest of all time a long time ago, right? Like, is he the guy? Unbelievably marketable. Kansas City was swimming in average, even with Alex Smith and Andy Reid, a one-and-doner. Can't trade him. Most talented quarterback probably, and come from behind quarterback, even better than Elway. Second most untradeable American athlete and a good guy.
Yeah. Mahomes, obviously, like, it's interesting. If we look at his full list, it's all different athletes. Kalen Clark, Ohtani, Jokic, Allen, Judge, and Daniels. And I've already made a separate Jane Daniels video, and I'm going to make a Josh Allen video as well. But when you look at this, Patrick Mahomes obviously has to be there, right? If you go through some of these other quarterbacks and you had to pick and choose who would you want, it's like, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, you know, what about Lamar? What about Burrow? What about Herbert? What about Jalen Hurts? What about all these other quarterbacks? And this is where it's really interesting, because the only way how you could convince yourself to move on from someone like a Mahomes or a Josh Allen is because of age. It's like if there, you know, you could be like, well, Jane Daniels technically has more runway ahead of him and this or that, right? Like, you could kind of make that argument. I'm not saying that you should do it, but you could wrap your head around it, right? You're not gonna, you know, do it really for any other reason. You're not gonna be like, I just don't trust Mahomes can get the job done. And that's the thing, because, you know, if you have a Lamar Jackson up there, the way how I look at it is like, if you put in another quarterback in this list, it wouldn't work, because if you were faced, like, let's just use Lamar Jackson as an example. Who would you rather have? You know, it's like if you have your team and you have Lamar Jackson, and they say, hey, we'll let's do a you know, a straight up swap between Mahomes and Lamar. It's like, you're gonna make that move. You should make that move. And so, like, that's where all these other quarterbacks won't work. If you had to choose between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, taking Josh Allen. Now, what's interesting is when you have Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, you can make the argument, nope, I'm happy. I think if you have Josh Allen, you're like, no, I'm good. And if you have Patrick Mahomes, you're like, no, I'm good. Like, there's that's where it just kind of rears its head. I know a lot of Ravens fans will say, well, that's how I feel about Lamar. And you would honestly be wrong in that situation. You just would. Now, to be clear, I do think Lamar Jackson has played better football over the last couple of years. And I've said that. I've said that Patrick Mahomes has not been the best quarterback in the NFL over these last couple of years. But when it comes down to it, in these big, massive, crucial moments and games, what helps me sleep? How will I sleep better at night? It's knowing if I got Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. And we're going to just keep Jane Daniels to the side for now, because let's just talk about, like, the actual established quarterbacks who have been playing for years. It's going to be Mahomes and Josh Allen. And if I got Patrick Mahomes, it's like, I'm feeling good. I'm good. You know, and like, what are you going to trade him out for? Justin Herbert? No. You know, Matthew Stafford? No. Jalen Hurts? No. You know, Aaron Rodgers? I can't remember all the names that I've already even said. But you know what I'm saying? Russell Wilson? No. Like, you're just not going to do it. You're just not going to do it. And you're not going to move on from Patrick Mahomes for, like, a number one overall pick who's set up to be, like, this massive thing. Because you're like, you know what? I like what I have right now. If there were 33, if Mahomes was 33, 34, then you're like, okay, but, like, that's obviously not where it's at right now. But that's where these conversations of, like, who's a better quarterback and whatnot are always so interesting and can be actually fun. I found more interesting ways to have them, at least for me, that I find more entertaining. And it's kind of like, okay, what if you have a bad coach and a rough team? Who would you rather have? And it's like, I would make the argument that Lamar Jackson would be a better quarterback for that team than, say, a Patrick Mahomes, because of what he can do physically, you know. But if you're building a great team and a great roster with a great coaching staff, it's like, all right, I'm trusting Patrick Mahomes to be able to lead that team, to be able to do all the little things that, unfortunately, we have seen Lamar fail at. Now, it's not to say Lamar Jackson's a bad quarterback or this inferior quarterback, and I'm just using Lamar Jackson as a placeholder in this example, because I feel like also a lot of people who watch this video will be like, how is Lamar not up there? And they'll be very mad that Lamar's not up there, but Josh Allen is. They could probably and Jaden Daniels for that matter, quite frankly. But until Lamar Jackson, with a higher degree of regularity, can step up in these big moments, it will hang on him. It just will. That's just the unfortunate reality for him. And again, I've defended him. I've made excuses for him that I don't even see as excuses. I see as reasons. But it is something that Mahomes and Josh Allen do not have on their resume. They just don't. And neither does Jaden Daniels in year one. And I'm sure other Eagles fans are going to be like, well, how's Jalen Hurts not here and whatnot? And it's like, again, I just don't think that Jalen Hurts is considered untradeable, even though he's obviously absolutely balled out in the NFL, in Super Bowls and in huge moments. But I just think I do not believe that the Philadelphia Eagles would be worse off if Patrick Mahomes was their quarterback. I just don't believe that. And same thing with Josh Allen. So it's just like, this is where I always talk about how multiple things can be true and why I more enjoy dissecting the logic of how people reach the conclusions rather than the actual conclusion itself, especially when we're talking about top 10 lists of who's better than this. It's like, I'd rather unpack how people are getting there and why it's flawed rather than being like, no, this is the true list. Because again, I think in different situations, different quarterbacks, are more valuable. There are absolute teams and situations where Jalen Hurts is more valuable than a Patrick Mahomes. But again, if we're looking at it in a more vacuum, when you're like, I'm building a great team, I got an awesome coach, great roster, great defense, not like stacked like 15 Pro Bowlers here, but it's just a great team. It's a great team, top 5 roster in the NFL, however anyone wants to define it. And it's just like, who do you want as your quarterback? And you'd be hard pressed to find many people who are going to, confidently pick someone over Patrick Mahomes in that regard. It would be fascinating. The one thing that we haven't really seen Mahomes do, not really, we haven't at all. We've just never really seen him with inferior coaching. With coach, that is the one thing. And that is what we were able to see with Tom Brady after he moved on from Bill Belichick. That will be the one big check mark that Patrick Mahomes, would really, I don't want to say need to, but in many eyes need to check. Because make no mistake about it, the massive percentage of people were like, Bill Belichick is arguably more important than Tom Brady was in those Super Bowl runs. That was not a outlier opinion, a clickbait opinion. It was a real opinion. And at the very least, it was seen as 50-50. I would not say that's the case for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. People widely see it as Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes. And from someone who actually likes to look at things more grounded and not through a fan's eyes, I'm like, I would love to see. I've seen Josh Allen with questionable coaching. I've seen Lamar Jackson with questionable coaching. I've seen Jalen Hurts with questionable coaching. I haven't seen Jaden Daniels. Cliff Kingsbury is an awesome OC. Awesome OC. We've seen Joe Burrow as Zach Taylor, who's a good coach, not on Andy Reid's level, but clearly a good coach. It's like, I haven't seen him with an awful coach or an awful coordinator. So that is the one thing. It's just like, I'd love to be able to see, how does Patrick Mahomes play with a defensive head coach who the offensive coordinator is not good and is getting fired, mid-season. I'd love to see what he looks. I would love to see what that looks like. I'd love to see those moments. I don't think we'll ever see that, honestly, because the Chiefs would be wild to ever, when Andy Reid retires, or like, we're gonna hire Mike Tomlin. It's like, no, don't do that. But yeah. But it is interesting to see Caitlin Clark above Patrick Mahomes, and yeah, I think Caitlin Clark right now is such a phenomenon. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, like, obviously you guys know Caitlin Clark, but like, for those of you who don't truly know, Caitlin Clark, it has truly taken over the world, and her popularity is truly just through the roof. and the financial gain from that popularity if you are, in a position to monetize off her, like, because, like, you're the Indiana Fever or whatever, is like just it's just next level. I mean, it really, really is. So I guess, like, you could make the argument, and that fact that she's so young right now, that you do have like a solid 10 years, but like Patrick Mahomes is obviously insanely, wildly popular. But yeah, if you were forced to make a decision right now, you would probably say that Mahomes has, like, I don't know, 4 more true, spectacular, you're truly in your peak prime years. And then, I don't know, you start to flirt with this, well, he's 34, he's 35, it's just like, you do start to kind of settle into, like, still obviously great, can still obviously do amazing things, can still even win MVPs, like, a la Aaron Rodgers and whatnot, but it's just not quite there. You know that you're just right at that edge, and you now actually finally do get that injury that knocks you out for 10 games and not just a quarter or something. Like, it finally does happen. It's happened to LeBron, it happened to Brady. Like, it finally does catch up to you. And so you're going to be looking at Caitlin Clark as having ideally a longer runway of just being able to just be as popular and as dominant right now. But same thing with Ohtani in terms of just what he does for baseball. Yeah, I feel like the top 3 is probably pretty perfect, honestly. Caitlin, Mahomes, Ohtani. You couldn't really do any wrong with that. You could make the argument to put Ohtani 1, especially because of the international market that he gets, obviously. But and also just how baseball is. But baseball is such a it's honestly more of a niche sport than anything these days. But it's closer to soccer, or like soccer in the U.S. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes number 2, Colin spectacular 7 untradeable players in American sports. It's not a bad list. I don't know if Aaron Judge should be there. He's obviously great. He's obviously awesome. Not saying you want to trade him, but again, how I was kind of doing this with my example before, if you could trade Judge for Ohtani, would you? And I think the answer would be yes. I know the answer would be yes. The Yankees could swap out Judge and bring in Ohtani. Yeah, you would do that. Therefore, I don't think then Judge could be there on that list. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Patrick Mahomes being the 2nd most untradeable player in American sports? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.